Well, we're back with Victrola the fourth with a suffix 363172. That's 1917. It has been cleaned up. It has been serviced. The reproducer has been rebuilt. New gaskets. And we're ready to go. Now, of course, I covered this in the last video and probably other ones as well. 1917 was the single year that Victor omitted the horn slats on a Victrola, and only for this machine, and just for a part of 1917, almost the whole year, but not quite, I believe. And as you can see, the reason behind this was supposed to be to help the war effort conserve wood, even though we had massive amounts of wood in this country even then. So, but it's not a bad look. Almost looks like a little concert stage there. And the reason for the slats in the first place was supposed to be to direct the sound, not really to hide the horn opening. People knew what horn openings looked like because before the Victrola you had the big open horn machines, and they were still making them at this time too. So it wasn't that. It was just to direct the sound waves for a more pleasurable listening experience. But frankly, I don't really notice the difference with or without the slats. They could have omitted them on all the machines and it wouldn't have made any difference to me. Of course, being a 4, this is an oak. Golden oak in this case. It's a little aged. This is a flea market find last weekend, no, weekend before actually, and there was nothing really wrong with it. Nothing broken. The spring was fine. You know, the reproducer obviously needed rebuilding. It was just really dirty. I mean, really, really dirty. It took a lot of cotton cleanser to clean this wood. It looked like it had been probably sitting on top of a table in an attic for, I don't know, 80, 90 years. You know, a long time, very long time. But it is playing very well now. It's all back together. It's got new rubber feet. Everything's been done. I didn't change the other felt. The felt's a little bit moth-eaten, but not horrible. A little bit of dust on that record. How'd that get there in literally 2 minutes? All right, today's record is, let me take it off of there and you'll see, Barney Google by comedian George Price. Now, for those of you who are fans of Boardwalk Empire, the HBO miniseries there, I guess you'd call it, TV series, whatever, we'll remember the exit of mobster Gyp Rossetti. While he is relieving himself on the side of the road, he's singing a song. And this is that song. One of many versions of it that I actually have.
Who's the man our president tell all their troubles to? No, it isn't Mr. Bryan, and it isn't Mr. Hughes. And I'm mighty proud that I'm allowed a chance to introduce Barney Google with his googly eyes. Barney Google had a wife 3 times his size. She sued Barney for divorce. Now he's living with his horse. Barney Google with his googly eyes. Who's the greatest lover that this country ever knew? Who's the man that Vasilino takes his hat off to? No, it isn't Douglas Fairbanks that the ladies rave about. When he arrives, who makes the wives chase all their husbands out? Who? Barney Google with his googly eyes. Barney Google said his horse would win the prize. When the horses ran that day, Sparkplug ran the other way. Barney Google with his googly eyes. Who's the greatest admiral the whole world ever knew? Who's the man who sunk a navy in a birch canoe? No, it isn't Mr. Dewey that succeeded in this test. Say, who's the gent whose back is bent with medals on his chest? Who? Why, if you fellas don't know, you're just as dumb as the fellow who thinks Rex Beach is a summer resort. It's none other than Barney Google with his googly eyes. Barney Google is the luckiest of guys. If he fell into the mud, he'd come up with a diamond stud. Barney Google with his googly eyes. Who's the greatest batter that this country ever saw? Who's the man who hits a ball 1,000 miles or more? No, it isn't Mr. Sisler, and it isn't Mr. Cobb. Say, he's the youth who made Babe Ruth go out and get a job. Well, the horses are at the post. If Sparkplug wins by a nose, he ought to win by at least 10 yards. They're off. Who's that in front? That's lunch hour, 12 to 1. Onion is going strong. Go on, Sparkplug. My goodness. Garlic wins by a breath. Sparkplug is so far behind, I think he'll win the next race. See how sad he looks. Who's Barney Googa with his googly eyes? Barney Googa bet his horse would win the prize. Sparkplug ran a spine of silk till somebody hollered milk. Barney Googa with his googly eyes.
Barney Google. Very, very popular song in the 1920s. And it shows up in movies and TV shows like Boardwalk Empire. All right, let's see what else we got here. We have a little stack. These are all recent acquisitions. I haven't really had a chance to... Well, Barney Google I had played before, but a lot of these ones I really haven't. You're Some Pretty Doll, the All-Star Trio. Well, give that one a shot. That's definitely contemporary or close to it to this machine. Let's put a needle. Oh, I'll put this down as I gotta wind it up. Single spring motors on a cold day. I am going to wind it each and every time. And I just lost a needle. That's lovely. But they're available by the 1,000 pack, and as I always say, we always change needles every time we play a record. Found it. Because a worn needle will destroy your records. The first time the needle is used, the material in these records, which has grit in it, shapes the needle to the groove of that particular record. So if you go to put another record in there, now you have a cutting implement that starts to cut its own groove instead of being cut and turned. So don't do that. Needles are available by the 100 pack. Just grab a bunch of them. I buy them by the 1,000. Let it spin up to speed, and there we go. Oh, that one actually played pretty good considering I haven't cleaned any of these records. Not that all of them need cleaning, but sometimes you do have to do that. I think Barney Google's going to need a little bit of a cleaning down. Plays very well, but I do notice some haze on there. Matter of fact, I meant to play the other side of that. I never did. That's a Billy Murray pressing on there, which is I Love Me. Here's something interesting. Somebody put a written number on there. Not sure why, but well, let's find out how well that one plays. Let's see. We're going to need a needle to do that, and probably going to have to crank it too, because I didn't do either one of those things. Okay, there we go. And that, of course, is an exhibition reproducer. That is what the fourth came with. You will frequently find them with Victrola number 2 reproducers on there. I find them all the time that way. Those are later upgrades that people did. At dealer suggestion, they brought their exhibition in to be rebuilt or whatever. Oh, come on. You want the latest technology. How about a nice Victrola number 2 at a discount? One day only. That kind of thing. Not that there's anything wrong with the number 2. It's an excellent reproducer. I just happen not to like the gaskets that we currently have available to us for rebuilding them. They're a pain in the ass to work with. I'll get into more of that some other time, but there we go.
Songs of love they write of one another. It's always sis or ma and pa, sweetheart or a brother. But love songs that they've aimed at me have all gone on the shelf. I don't think that is fair, so now I'll write one of myself. I love me, I love me, I love myself to death. I love me till I'm all out of breath. I stop at every slot machine that I should chance to pass and give myself a hug and squeeze as I look in the glass. Oh, I love me, I'm wild about sweet me. I love me, only me, so I'm content, you see. With me I like to make a date to meet myself at 8:30. If I'm not there, I never wait. I'm wild about myself. I love me, every place I go. I love me, and at a movie show, I take myself right by my arm and push me through the crowd, and listen to myself read me the titles right out loud. Oh, I love me, I love to squeeze my hand. I love me, it always feels so grand. With me I get right in my tub, I let myself give me a rub. Oh, how I love to feel me scrub. I'm wild about myself. I love me, I'm wild about myself. I love me, my picture's on my shelf. You may not think I look so good, but me thinks I'm just fine. It's grand when I look in my eyes and know that I'm all mine. I love me, and my love doesn't bore. Day by day, in every way, I love me more and more. I take me to a quiet place, I put my arm around my waist. If me gets fresh, I slap my face. Ma, I'm wild about myself.
And there we go. The great Billy Murray and I Love Me on a 1917 Victor Victrola IV. Fresh out of service. Fresh from service, I should say.